Welcome to Dr. Akmal Makhdum's YouTube channel, and today we're going to be discussing coronavirus and forgotten philosophies. So, Dr. Akmal, you wanted to mention some philosophies that are very interesting. What would that be?
What I want to talk about today is the philosophy of Martin Heidegger. And one apology I have to make is that I'm no philosopher and I'm not even a student of philosophy, but I'm an amateur reader of philosophy. And my late father was a great fan of philosophy and did all his work around philosophy. So I would say that one particular philosopher that stands out, he actually stands out in the last 2000 years as one of the greatest philosophers. But I would say that in this particular context, when we are dealing with an existential threat, when our lives are confronted with imminent morbidity and or mortality, I think Martin Heidegger is probably somebody that we need to read or think about. I would suggest that maybe reading uh, may probably be more difficult. So just trying to get an idea about what he thought and why he thought what he thought would be a nice starting point. I would say that Martin Heidegger's approach, and one thing that really struck me was that when somebody asked me how you asked him, sorry, that how could you lead a better life, his response was try to spend some quality time in graveyards. Now, this is extremely poignant.
Some people would
Uh,
say dark.
exactly. But the thing is, another thing when he was concluding a particular piece of work, a lecture, he said, only a God can save mankind. And what we see here is that both these things seem to be happening. So it is providence, nature, a world, a universe, universal wisdom, or God who has brought about this pandemic, whatever the circumstances or the causation be. And the other thing is that because we are confronting morbidity and mortality, and for each there is an existential threat, and then somebody saying, try to spend some quality time in graveyards, there is a lot of material in between.
Mhm.
What he suggests is that people are living an inauthentic life. In this inauthentic life, they are looking at and hearing what other people say. And this is part of the historical heritage that we have. This is part of the culture that we are surrounded by. And what he says is that you're constantly looking and hearing at what other people are saying, other people are expecting, other people want you to be, how you should do your job, how you should dress up, how you should think, what should be your aspirations, and keep on saying, I'm free, I'm independent. But he calls this living as inauthentic living.
Well, I think we've seen from what's happening that we really weren't that free. We were tied to these systems
There
quite
you go. And
significantly.
and of course now we see no freedom whatsoever.
Mm.
So the other thing is that what he also suggests is that we are constantly hearing uh, das Gerede, as he calls it in German, the chatter. And so there is so much chatter around, chatter of dogma, chatter of belief, chatter of science. And what we see is that hundreds of thousands of people are looking at death, and science is completely out of its depth. So, the situation here is that we also are seeing religious dogma. and belief being contested. And we are looking at existential threat. And what he says is that when we confront these things, it is very easy to fall either on science or on religious dogma.
Right.
And it is never that we try to fall on our call of conscience, on our own authentic existence. What is it that we are? And the other thing is that, he's got a world of philosophy in what he said, and, objectification of other human beings and how we appropriate and misappropriate history and so on. But obviously that is not part of our discussion, and maybe we can do it some other time. But the important thing that I find is that what he suggests is that you need to understand at every juncture that you have a finite time. You don't have that linear timeline that goes on and on and on and on and on. You have finite time. And in that finite time, do you know what is your being? So when you are adopting that historical heritage that you have, and ours being Pakistani, British, Punjabi, Pakistani, British, Muslim, Pakistani, Punjabi, British, and so many other histories, parental heritage coming from that part of the world, and, so on. So that is where what he suggests is that, are you looking at all the chatter around you and hearing all that chatter? Das Garide. Are you living an inauthentic life where you are not aware? And are you objectifying everything? Because, where you are being looked at as an object. So if you're a healer, you're a medical man, you are being looked at as a tool that other people can use. But what is your own intrinsic value? What is your own intrinsic being? Who are you? Only a doctor? Only a father? Only a, friend? So that is the point that, there is this very common usage, a human capital. Isn't it objectifying humanity or a human being as capital? So you can use that capital. So the green resource, the tree is a resource that you can either burn or use or create more oxygen. But what is your relationship with that object, with that tree, with this human capital? So I think that here we are confronting our existential mortality. We should know now, and as it is confronting us, that we have very finite time. If we have this finite time, what is our being? Okay. Who are we? What is our call of conscience?
Okay, so these are the questions you would pose to everyone to use to think about during this lockdown.
I would say that yes, I think that this is the time that we have to look at who we are and why it is important. Okay. Is what will happen after the COVID-19 ends. Are we going to run the world and live in this world the same way? Where we using other trees and human beings and the environment as objects and ourselves being looked at objects? Or are we going to transform? Is technology going to rule us, or are we going to rule technology? And that is the question I would pose.
Wonderful. And on that, we'll actually end this, and we will let our viewers write to us and give us their thoughts. And in the next video, we will have a discussion with the feedback from everyone. Wonderful. Thank you so much. If you guys like the video, please subscribe and share. Thank you for joining us today.